My current boyfriend and I have been together since December 2022, and up until about 2 weeks ago, this was the most fun and healthy relationship I've ever been in. We often say that we are like the same person because we have the same sense of humor, the same family values, the same interests, taste in food and music, and the same views on major life choices and goals such as kids, living arrangements, pets, and money. We are known among our mutual friends as that couple that is seemingly meant for each other. I suppose that is what makes this situation so difficult. A few weeks ago, while I was at work, I checked the Find My iPhone app. It's worth noting that my partner and I live in different towns about a 40-minute drive from each other, and we have had each other on the Find My app for a while now, just in case we lost our phones while traveling together. I noticed that my boyfriend was at a random house in a part of his town that he has no reason to go to. It's not near his work, gym, or any local shops or places he usually goes. At first, I didn't think much of it, but I found it odd when I asked him about his day and he didn't mention it. I thought he would have told me if it was something important. He often sells things on Depop and Facebook Marketplace, so I assumed he might have gone to drop something off to a buyer. Everything came to a head about 3 weeks ago. While spending the weekend together, I received a text message from an unknown number saying that my boyfriend had slept with someone who tested positive for gonorrhea and herpes, and he should get tested. This news shocked me because we both got tested and came back clean when we first got together. This was surefire proof of his infidelity. I confronted him about the text and asked if he had slept with anyone else since we met. I urged him to be honest and tell me, rather than having an anonymous person inform me through a text message. He became extremely upset and reassured me that I am the best thing in his life, and he hasn't slept with anyone else. He received the same strange text from the same number and believed it might be one of his housemates playing a joke. We agreed that it was strange that someone managed to find both of our numbers. After a lengthy conversation addressing my concerns and answering my questions, we decided to ignore the messages and move forward. In the days following this incident, the number continued to message me despite my lack of response. They even provided me with an address where the hookup supposedly happened, and even sent doorbell footage of my boyfriend walking up to a door from his car. At that moment, I knew he was lying, so I kept these messages to myself until I felt ready to confront him. I also discovered that he had ordered an STD test kit on his phone, which further confirmed my suspicions. When I was prepared to confront him with this evidence, I called him and initiated the conversation. Me. So that number kept messaging me, and I want to give you another opportunity to be honest. If you slept with someone, it would be so much easier for me if you just told me the truth instead of lying. No, of course not. I can't believe they're still messaging you. You should block and ignore them, babe. Someone is just trying to mess with us. Well, they gave me the address where this supposed meetup happened. Have you ever been there? Him. No, I don't even know where that is. Me. Funny, because they sent me footage of you parked there. That's so weird. The call fell silent for a few minutes, and I refused to be the first to speak. Eventually, he confessed that he paid for a meeting with an escort he found online and showed me the booking confirmation. He claimed that he's into having intimacy in front of others and felt he couldn't tell me, so he decided to book an escort to watch himself intimacy. Do I believe that this is all that happened between them? No. Do I believe that he couldn't tell me about this kink? No. Because we have always had a very healthy intimacy life and open conversations about our desires and fantasies. I even expressed my interest in trying something similar, but he didn't seem interested. If this was such a significant fantasy for him, he should have been excited about exploring it together. I've always had a slightly higher intimacy drive than him, and I've always asked if there was anything he wanted to try. He always told me he was happy and satisfied with what we had. I asked him why he did it, and he couldn't provide a clear answer other than saying it was something he wanted to try. He claimed he became obsessed with it and needed to do it to get it out of his system. I asked if there was anything missing from our relationship or intimacy life that made him feel dissatisfied, but he said there was nothing he would change. He emphasized that he loves what we have and that he regrets his actions. He doesn't understand why he did it, and I believe he was just aroused and thought he could get away with it. I'm struggling to process what has happened. Part of me wants to forgive him and go back to being the perfect couple, but deep down, I know that wouldn't be healthy for me. He has apologized and promised to make things right, always being there to support me and discuss the issue. Despite his recent actions and words aligning, I can't forget how mismatched they were before. It disgusts me that he could lie to my face so convincingly. If I didn't have solid proof, he probably would have gaslighted me into thinking it was a hoax or a scam message. This revelation has reopened a deep wound for me. As I have been cheated on in every past relationship, it solidifies my fear that I will never be good enough on my own. Are there any good men left? If the person I discussed marrying can do this to me, what hope do I have? He also travels frequently for work, and I now worry about how I'll feel with him being abroad for weeks at a time. I feel like I'm becoming the worst version of myself, constantly doubting him. It's unfair that he gets to pretend everything is great with his friends and housemates, who still see us as the perfect couple. I want everyone to know what he's done to me. I shouldn't have to suffer alone while he acts like nothing happened. I understand that he hasn't told them because he knows they would be disappointed in him. In 2 weeks, I'm going on holiday with my family, and I'm worried about what he might do in my absence. I desperately want to forget and move on, but writing this post is the longest I've allowed myself to think about what happened. It feels like my brain is trying to protect me from the pain. Maybe it's a coping mechanism. Breaking up is probably the right thing to do, but I'm angry that I have to give up the future I wanted with him because of his actions. I'm frustrated that I now have to focus on self-improvement and deal with this internal battle, all because he decided to cheat. Regarding the STD part of this post, we are in the process of getting full screenings. He has already done a urine test for chlamydia and gonorrhea, and it came back negative. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He is doing what is called trickle-truthing. He doesn't know how much you know, so he keeps letting little pieces of truth come out until you believe him. Example: he didn't meet anyone. You show proof, okay? He did meet someone, but it's not as bad as you think. He didn't do anything intimacy. You show proof, okay? He did do something intimacy, but it's not as bad as you think. He is a liar. I personally wouldn't continue to date a liar, but plenty of people marry or spend their life with liars. The choice is yours, but I also think it's obvious. Comment 2. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It breaks my heart to read it. What an absolute idiot. Just want to give you hope. I'm almost 35 years old, and I've had 4 serious relationships in my life. 6 years, 3 years, 2 years, and my current one, 2 years so far, and none of the guys cheated on me. All my past relationships died because of different reasons, growing apart, long distance, etc., but none of the boys cheated. So there are decent men out there. Don't stay with this jerk just because you think that's about the best there is. Now for the update. It's been over 2 days since the last fight with my boyfriend. We finally got our STD test results back, which are basically the only kind of results I wanted. His initial tests for chlamydia and gonorrhea came back negative. Thank God for that, I guess. But the whole thing is still just so messed up. So he suggested we go out for dinner to celebrate the negative results. This guy really thinks we can just have a normal life again, huh? We chose this little Italian restaurant, one we used to go to a lot before all the chaos. I swear, every couple has their place, and this one felt like a punch in the gut. He kept trying to hold my hand, but I kept pulling away. It just felt wrong. He asked if I was still upset about everything. I didn't answer. What was I supposed to say? Yes, I'm still upset because you lied to me, you dirty liar. He was texting a lot during the meal, and I noticed. Like way more than usual. I asked him who he was texting, and he said it was just work stuff. I tried to get more details, but he switched topics like a pro. Kinda suspect, if you ask me. I caught a glimpse of his phone screen and saw a message from some unknown number. I was immediately on high alert, But we finished dinner and went back to my place to watch a movie, like we were some happy couple again. While I was getting ready, I saw his jacket on the chair. I found a receipt in the pocket from a hotel with a check-in date from last week. I confronted him about it. He looked totally shocked. I mean, how stupid does he think I am? He claimed it was a mistake and that he was just picking up a friend's jacket. Yeah, right. I didn't buy it for a second. I demanded to know who was staying at the hotel. He hesitated and finally admitted he went there to meet someone. He insisted it was just a friend and nothing more. I was furious. I told him I needed time alone to think, and I went to my sister's house. I was so ready to just get away from him for a bit. My sister noticed I was upset and asked what happened. I explained the hotel receipt and his total evasiveness. She suggested I take a break from him completely. Yeah, no kidding. I spent the night at her place, sleeping on the couch and everything. I just needed some distance and comfort food, you know? The next morning, my phone had a message from him asking where I was. I ignored it, obviously. Then I checked my phone for updates and saw another message from that unknown number. They asked if I was still with him. At this point, I was just so fed up. I decided to respond, asking who they were and how they knew him. They replied with a photo of my boyfriend at the hotel with some other woman, looking all cozy and stuff. I sent a message to my boyfriend, letting him know I'd seen the picture. He called me immediately, trying to explain. I mean, what could he even say at this point? I told him it was over and that I was cutting ties for good. He begged me to meet in person to talk, but there was no way I was doing that. I blocked him on all social media and my phone. It felt good. Thank you for reading. Edit. I received many questions about the photo. The sender confirmed it was from the day of the hotel check-in and that her boyfriend had gone there to cheat on me. She said they met on a dating app and that he told her he was single. She sent me a screenshot of their conversation. I checked the screenshot against his texts. They were talking about meeting up for a week. My boyfriend was subbing me out the whole time. I unblocked him to send a screenshot of the girl and the texts and told him I'd be reporting his butt to the app for this. He begged me not to, saying it could ruin his career. I told him I wasn't worried about his career. Am I the idiot for leaving my boyfriend after he walked past me while I was fainting on the floor? I am a 26-year-old female and anemic, which often makes me lightheaded and prone to fainting. The other day, I had a bad spell that didn't clear as quickly as usual. I fell to the floor and was staying conscious, but barely, and tried to prop myself up against a doorway, thinking lying flat would make it worse. The only part of me really propped up was my head. My vision went completely, but I was still conscious. I heard my boyfriend's footsteps and thought, thank God, but then I felt his foot brush over my stomach and heard his steps continue past me. We have been together for 4 years. The back door opened and he went outside. After a few minutes, I was recovered enough to crawl to my bed. After the shock of what had just happened passed, I confronted my boyfriend about stepping over my semi-conscious body and leaving me on the floor. He said he knew I would be okay since it was just my anemia, so there was no reason to get involved. He also said he peeked his head back inside after a few minutes and saw that I was no longer on the floor, so he thought I was all good. The situation honestly horrified me and made me feel like less than the dirt on the floor, but my boyfriend says I am just overreacting. It wasn't serious, so why should I be mad that he didn't take it seriously? It's true it wasn't a serious medical emergency, but it was still scary, and I could have used help. Am I overreacting? I feel like serious or not, when someone falls, you help them, especially someone you care about. His lack of action indicates to me a lack of basic care or consideration for me. Am I right to be really concerned by this response? How should I respond? To add, I see a lot of comments about assuming I have not sought treatment or attempted to care for myself, which is a wild assumption. I have been caring for my health and taking the necessary supplements since I was diagnosed. Most of the time, it is manageable. On this day, it was a bad day, and I didn't pull out of the episode as quickly or easily as I normally would. I don't know why, but it could be a host of factors. And even when I have fainted, I have required very little from my partner. Now for an update. I'm leaving today. A lot of people have assumed that I am some drama queen fainting on the daily and milking it for all it's worth. 98% of my condition I guarantee he is not even aware of. I decided a long time ago not to bother or inconvenience him, but the truth is I probably knew he wouldn't want or do anything to help anyway. It has never been his responsibility to take care of me. All I wanted was the human decency of not being stepped over one of the few times I actually needed him. I have done all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the laundry, while financially supporting this man through school. This has pushed me over the edge. I didn't want to leave without trying my best because I fell in love with him from day one. But I can't do this anymore. I'm dying inside. I bought a ticket back home, super expensive, but frick the money. It would have just gone to paying his rent anyway. Also, a lot of people have told me to get tested for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, as my symptoms align more with that than basic anemia. So once I get home, I'll go get that checked out. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, absolute deal breaker. He did not know for sure you would be all right. That's cold-hearted, even if he did know you would be all right. My husband would be down on the floor with me, talking to me, probably calling 911, even if I did faint all the time. Actually, that reminds me, I had a seizure once, and my husband knew it was a seizure. He has seen me come out of them before, but he stayed with me. And when my lips turned blue, he called 911. You never know what will happen. I would drop your boyfriend like a bad habit and find someone who cares. Comment 2. What I find utterly insane about this is if I came home and found my worst enemy on the floor looking in trouble, I would still have to stop and help them. Then I read stories like this where someone steps over the body of their girlfriend without helping them and literally walking off. I truly cannot comprehend it. Does he hate you, AP? There is no way you can stay with him. Leave him now. Now for the update. A few days after I broke up with my ex, I was back in my hometown and living with my parents. They were super supportive, but honestly, they were kind of worried about me. I mean, I get it, right? Your daughter comes home looking like a hot mess, barely able to stand straight. They were especially concerned about me being in a relationship with a guy who literally stepped over me when I was passed out in a puddle of my own weakness. So yeah, they had every right to be a bit on edge about that. I scheduled an appointment with a specialist to talk about my symptoms. I was kind of anxious about it. After a bunch of tests, the doctor confirmed I had postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Honestly, I was just relieved to finally have a diagnosis. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The doctor started me on some treatments right away, and I could tell it was making a difference, even if my energy level was still kind of subpar. While I was at home recovering, I reconnected with some old friends from high school. We had a blast hanging out and reminiscing about the good old days. One evening, we were all having dinner when my mom casually mentioned my ex's name. I felt this wave of annoyance wash over me, but I just brushed it off. I mean, what are you gonna do, right? A week later, I get this text from my ex asking how I was doing. I totally ignored it. I was focused on my health and spending time with my family, not dealing with his nonsense. Then my dad suggested we have a family dinner to celebrate my improved health. During dinner, my brother Jake started talking about how stoked he was to become a father. We all shared some good laughs and stories, and it was just a warm, cozy atmosphere. After dinner, Jake jokingly asked about my dating plans. He even suggested getting me a matchmaker. I rolled my eyes, not really wanting to talk about relationships just yet. I mean, I had enough on my plate as it was. A few days later, I got a call from my ex, insisting we need to talk. I was like, no thanks, man. But then he started texting me all these persistent messages, and I felt kind of pressured to respond. Eventually, I agreed to meet him at this local diner to chat. He apologized for being a jerk in the past, claiming he didn't really understand my condition. I was feeling a bit conflicted, but listened as he talked about wanting to change for me. He said he felt totally lost without me and wanted to make things right. I told him I needed time to focus on my health and that I didn't want to rush back into anything with him. He agreed, but insisted we stay in touch, which I reluctantly went along with. A couple of weeks went by, and I started feeling more independent. I even started volunteering at a local charity, helping organize events. It felt good to be doing something positive. One day while volunteering, I met this guy who was also really passionate about the cause. We exchanged numbers and started texting about upcoming events. Nothing crazy, just casual stuff. Meanwhile, my ex was still trying to get in touch, sending me all these messages and calls. It was kinda annoying, to be honest. One night, while I was out with my volunteering group, I spotted my ex across the street. He came up to me looking all upset and demanded to know why I was ignoring him. I told him I was just trying to move on and focus on my health. That's when things got ugly. He accused me of moving on too quickly and not caring about our relationship. It started to escalate, and people nearby were definitely noticing. I was so embarrassed and just wanted to get out of there. I ended up leaving the scene quickly and went home feeling all shaken up. When I got home, I found a message from him saying he'd always be there for me. A few days later, I got a call from my brother Jake with some shocking news. He told me my ex had been seen at a bar getting close to someone else. Like, seriously? After all that drama, he's already moved on? I don't know what to think right now. Am I the idiot for taking a break from my partner after their favorite foster dog killed my dog? I met my partner online about a year ago. Months of long texts turned into long phone calls. I visited her 7 months ago for the first time, and we got into a long-distance relationship. Over the last several months, we have flown out to one another and stayed with each other for weeks at a time. We planned on moving into another space together once she moved to the same city. I adopted a little dog. She has been my everything for the last 8 years. My partner has been lukewarm about my dog, but was trying to bond with her in anticipation of our move. Seeing my partner depressed while seeking a job and knowing she wanted a second dog, I agreed to foster a friend's dog for a couple of weeks. My partner loved the foster dog, which was 2 years old. She specified how much she liked the foster dog over mine, and the foster dog attached itself to her. Flash forward to the day of my worst nightmare. I went to work and left my partner at home. Apparently, my dog ate, scratched her food bowl out of hunger, then went toward the other dog's bowl. The dog was in another bedroom with my partner and gave a warning growl. My partner ignored my dog scratching the bowl and the foster dog's growls. The foster dog then exited my room and attacked my dog. My partner said my dog was lying on the floor seizing after the attack. My partner said she Googled vets nearby. As she looked back, she saw a pool of blood expanding around my precious pup. She told me my dog was likely dead before she made it to the vet. I missed her call at 9:15 a.m. By 9:38 a.m., she had gone to the vet and my dog was declared dead on arrival. My roommate is upset and blames the negligence of my partner for my dog's death. While I've tried to look at the situation as a horrible accident, part of me also feels resentment too. We're supposed to move into another place together. My partner has been rushing our move. I'm still trying to grieve my dog and now don't know how I feel about our next chapter together. My dog has lived through multiple partners, and I've been in a deep state of grief since she passed. How do I bring this up with my partner? Should I be moving in with them? I'm having such a hard time. Everything feels like it's moving too fast now, and I'm devastated over the traumatic loss of my best friend. Now for an update. Thank you all for the comments, particularly from those who have been so kind in expressing their opinions. I appreciate your empathy around the situation and value your compassion. As some have accurately pointed out, I'm not an experienced multi-owner. My partner has owned dogs in the past, also as a single pet. I have felt ill for the last 2 weeks and have blamed myself, more than anyone, over what happened. Particularly as I was the one who introduced the foster. I thought I'd taken all the proper precautions, asked for vet records and doggy daycare reports. The owner reported that the dog grew up around cats, 2 small dogs, and children. We did research prior and had them separated for feedings when myself or roommate were home. The foster dog was with us for 3 weeks, and we were supposed to take the dog home the day after this happened. The foster dog was larger. My dog was very small. My partner is also traumatized from this situation. and it's been understandably hard for her to recount the events of that day. She was the only person home when the accident happened, and I'm sharing this story based on what was told to me. This has made it challenging for both of us to share our pain and grief, as neither party feels like they can share their pain without hurting the other person or making them feel worse. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. While I've tried to look at the situation as a horrible accident, it was a horrible accident based on both of you not knowing how to introduce a new dog to your living situation. Your partner sounds like she didn't interpret the bowl scratching in a way that an experienced owner might. It was a small mistake with big consequences. I think that one thing you may want to do is get some individual therapy to discuss your grief and process your resentment, both very valid feelings. Your feelings are telling you that your partner messed up and your dog died, but your rational mind knows this was a mistake, not a willful situation. This was about how dogs are territorial and aggressive with outside animals until they perceive them as part of the pack. Going forward, I think that you shouldn't move in with your girlfriend until you've processed your feelings, and I don't think either of you should have a dog for a while, particularly not until both of you know how to handle dogs better. Comment 2. She made a big mistake. Explain that you're devastated and need to focus on getting through the loss, so you want to put moving in on hold. That'll buy you time to decide how to move forward. It's totally fair if you can't continue the relationship. Such a heartbreaking loss. I could see how it might be hard to even look at your girlfriend now. And I think how she is reacting to this situation should help you decide too. She should be extremely apologetic and heartbroken. It doesn't matter if she didn't love the dog, you did, and that should be important to her as well, and bending over backward to help you get through. Was she pushing to move in together before or after this happened, or both? Honestly, if she's still pushing and oblivious to see how horribly she hurt you, then she's a shitty partner and you should end it. Now for the update. A couple of days after my dog passed, I decided to head to a local pet supply store to get some basics for the foster dog. It felt a bit weird being in there, like just a few weeks ago I was getting stuff for my dog. But it was kind of therapeutic, I guess. Anyway, I ran into this old friend from college while I was browsing. We used to be pretty tight, but you know how life goes. She asked about the dogs, and I gave her a quick rundown, totally avoiding the gory details. She was really nice about it, offered her condolences and all that. Then she started talking about her own dog, which got us into this long convo about dog training. I didn't know anything about that stuff, so I found it super helpful and decided to look into dog training classes for the foster dog and my future dog. I figured it couldn't hurt. My partner was all for it too, and suggested we take the foster dog to a training class together. I thought that was a good idea, so I agreed, hoping it might help my partner connect with the foster dog more. The training class was held at this community center on Saturday mornings, and let me tell you, it was chaos. There were dogs barking everywhere, and owners struggling to keep them in check. During one session, my partner seemed really engaged. The foster dog did this trick, and my partner laughed. It was nice to see them connecting like that, even for a moment. After a few weeks of classes, my partner started suggesting we adopt the foster dog for good. Knowing how attached my partner was getting, I figured we might as well. But then things got a little dicey. My partner wanted to change the foster dog's name to something more fun and quirky. I wasn't really on board with that. I just felt like it was disrespectful to the dog's past, you know? We didn't talk about it much, but it was definitely in the back of my mind. Then during one class, the partner kind of snapped at another owner for being late. She made a scene, and I was embarrassed as hell. I confronted her about it afterward, and we ended up having a pretty heated argument. She started accusing me of holding on to resentment over the dog's death, which wasn't fair. I was just trying to figure things out, and she knew that. But this argument went on for days. I mean, we weren't fighting every second, but we were both feeling misunderstood. And then things peaked when my partner suggested going on a trip to this nearby beach to clear our heads. I thought it might help, so we went. She was trying to lighten the mood and all, but I just wasn't feeling it. So while we were walking on the beach, we ran into this old couple with a dog that looked just like mine. They asked about the foster dog, and my partner started going on and on about how we were thinking about adopting her. I just stood there, like wanting to disappear. Back home, my roommate pulled me aside and expressed some concern about my partner and how she was acting in public. It was nice that my roommate cared, but I was just too tired to think about that stuff. A few days later, my partner invited a bunch of friends over for dinner to celebrate the idea of adopting the foster dog. It was a nice gesture, but honestly, it was a lot. During dinner, one of our friends casually mentioned their own dog being a rescue, and my partner jumped on that like it was a lifeline. They started pushing for adopting the foster dog immediately, and I could just feel the room getting tense. Dinner ended with my partner looking really disappointed, saying they thought I'd be more excited. I felt like crap at that moment, but I was just so uncomfortable with the idea of adopting the dog right now. We hadn't even talked about the logistics of it all, and they were jumping in with both feet. I knew I needed to take a step back and think things through before making any decisions. A few days later, my partner left for the weekend to visit family, which gave me some space to reflect. When she got back, she brought up the adoption conversation again, saying she was sure it was the right decision. I mean, she was excited, and I didn't want to rain on her parade, but I had my own reservations. We agreed to meet at a local cafe to talk it out. It was clear we needed to have an important conversation. The cafe was busy when we met, which just added to the tension. We sat down across from each other, and my partner started outlining all these plans for our future. She was talking about moving in together and adopting the dog. I mean, it sounded great on paper, but I interrupted her, to be honest. I just had to express my concerns about rushing into things so soon after everything. It felt like we were on two different pages. What I was saying wasn't resonating with her, and what she wanted wasn't what I could give right now. I could tell she was frustrated, and I was feeling the same way. To answer a few questions, we decided to pause the discussion about adopting the foster dog. My partner wanted to go forward, but I felt we were not aligned. She went to stay with family for a few days to think. We both need this time to reflect and figure things out. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.